Wow. Parece crack, mas é só insegurança.
In Jacob Guerra's video essay, The Meaning of Ugly Games, he talks about two franchises, the notorious Kenyon Lynch and the glorious Max Payne. In the video he calls Max Payne 3 an ugly game, which as a fan of the franchise I can understand his viewpoint, okay? He's not saying that the game is bad or graphically appalling, God forbid that happens in modern days.
Minus the charisma, an impressive cop.
But it is the fact that the game is covered with metaphorical filth, which is expected from a Max Payne game. So, what's the biggie here? Are you offended? Just Game Productions? No, I am just differentiated in my opinion, because in my opinion, there is a beauty hidden underneath Max Payne 3, and the whole franchise in fact, despite the ugliness that it might project over itself. But, before I fully explain, let's summarize some of the plot of Max Payne 1 to 3. If you're not familiar with one of the most iconic video game narratives since the dawn of man, when people were still banging on sticks and stones, communicated with the language of booga ooga ooga, and discovered the wheel and fire, aka myself, cause I'm super hot. Max Payne is about an NYPD detective that goes under the same name, who is living basically the American dream, a pogger's house.
Let's go.
And a beautiful wife and a baby girl. What else can a person want from life? But that dream is ruined when one day Max arrives home only to find his beloved Michelle and infant daughter were brutally slaughtered by a couple of junkies. This forces Max to go on a revenge quest, so he transfers from the NYPD to the DEA to investigate the case of the Valkyrie drug aka V, that the junkies actually were under the influence of when they killed his wife. He encounters a lot of faces along the way until he finally finds the person responsible for his wife's murder, the president of the Aesir Corporation, Nicole Horn. The reason why Nicole killed Max's wife is because while working as a part-time employee of the district attorney's office, Michelle anonymously received a file detailing the illegal activities surrounding the Valkyrie drug, meaning that she had the power to expose Horn to the authorities, and therefore Nicole herself put a hit on her so nobody finds out about Valkyrie. And Max put a hit on Horn by killing her at the end by himself. Well, it's not a hit if you do it yourself, but you know, I just don't know how English works. Okay, I'm from a foreign country, guys, happy. The second Max Payne, aka The Fall of Max Payne, is a follow-up after the main events of its prequel after Max kills Horn and actually is released from jail with the help of Alfred Walden, who was also a key character that they didn't mention, who is part of a secret society known as the Inner Circle. He was the guy that pointed Max into the right direction to kill Horn, because it is implied that basically she blackmailed him, and because Max actually killed Horn, he is being bailed out. After the bail, he is thrown into the mix of so many connected red dots that it will make you watch one of these ending explained videos on YouTube after you finish the game. Correction, you're gonna watch this only ending explained video because I'm the only one who's gonna produce this shit. And yes, I'm fucking wearing underwear. With underwear, you can fucking suck my dick if you don't enjoy it. I'm ripping my fucking blood sack off. I just took a shit. I'm just instead of laying in bed, because it's one of these fucking big as fucking shits that you need to lay down your bed, you know, in order to fucking The detective is basically caught into the crossfire of a war within the Inner Circle with recurring characters like Walden, Vladimir Lem, another key character that helped out Max in the first game, Vinny Gognidi, a gangster from the prequel, and Mona Sachs, one of Horn's and Angelo Porcenero's assassins. Angelo Porcenero, who is basically the former, like big guy before, you know, the other big guy that basically, like Max Payne's boss, okay, like, long story short. Mona was left for dead in the prequel and appears out of nowhere in the sequel to serve as the catalyst for Max's character development. But in terms of story revelations, the main events of the game all tie in together with how Vlad wants to overtake the Inner Circle, and therefore he uses hired guns referred to as the Cleaners because they dress like cleaners to eliminate Walden, other members of the Inner Circle, and Max, meaning he do be stabbing his friend in the back. But also he justifies it because Max really tragically shot his girlfriend, Detective Winterson, who was basically ratting out for Rad while working in the NYPD. He tries to put an end to Vlad's madness, but throughout the way he finds out that Mona actually is ordered as well to assassinate Vlad and Max himself, because the Russian basically is an enemy and Max has the same evidence that Horn gets that can put Walden away in jail. But don't you worry, because Mona doesn't kill him because they love each other. Oh, give him Rose, fucking love, boys. Love kills for the fuck it was. But anyway, Max tries to kill Vlad, then Vlad kills Mona for character development for Max, you know, because why the fuck not? Then Max kills Vlad, says goodbye to Mona because she dead.
That's why your mama
dead
did.
in the end, brother. Then the third game comes out, and it's kinda simple to summarize. Max still hasn't moved on from the death of his wife. He drinks alcohol and talks spirits like a post-porno track, and a long friend of his named Passos from the police academy convinces him to take a job as a bodyguard in Sao Paulo, Brazil, protecting the Branco family, which leads to his boss, wife and fuck ton of people killed until he finds out about how his boss brother was all behind all of this and that he is basically involved into human trafficking and organ harvesting. Yes, of people, organ harvesting. What do you think of animals, you fucking Max goes brrr. Victor Branco goes by, the bad guy gets arrested, then does a little bit of Jeffrey Epstein in the prison, Max walks off to the sentence, and then boom, the end. Now, you might say, Top True, you talked a lot, and I don't like this, but also, more specifically, you talked about death of women and infant children, along with alcohol abuse, human trafficking, organ harvesting, and betrayal that basically summarizes this whole franchise. How is this beautiful to you? Do you want to talk to someone? Do you need help? Are you okay? Do you take drugs? Well, I'm just gonna say one word. Tragedy. If I begin to describe Max Payne's genre in terms of narrative and a little bit of presentation, I could describe it as a thriller, action, or noir, but I would condense it within one word instead: tragedy. In order to cover all the bases more properly, tragedy is a form of drama based on the human suffering and mainly the terrible or sorrowful events that befall a main character. And in the traditional intention of a tragedy, its goal is to invoke an accompanying catharsis, which is the purification and purgation of emotions, or a pain that awakens pleasure for the audience. And I think you start to see what I mean by the title of this video: The Beauty of Max Payne. At least for me personally, I didn't realize for a long time, for years, the heat that Max Payne 1 has. I'm not talking about the amazing bullet dodging gameplay that still holds its butt cheeks tight and perfectly, and it is still enjoyable and satisfying to present day, but I am talking about the character of Max. For a long time I didn't appreciate fully this character and the situation he is in. Sure, they killed his family and he goes boom boom for revenge, let's kill these sons of bitches, I said to myself, but I never realized how much deep pain, get it, the character is in constantly. There was a scene in the first game where Nicole encounters you in Walden's mansion and attempts to kill you by giving an overdose of Valkyr. This causes Max of course to pass out and be on the brink of death. Meanwhile he starts having a dream in which he finds a letter that says something interesting.
There was something disturbingly familiar about the letter before me. The handwriting was all pretty curves.
You're in a computer game, Max.
The truth was a burning green crack through my brain, weapon statistics hanging in the air, glimpsed out of the corner of my eye, endless repetition of the act of shooting, time slowing down to show off my moves, the paranoid feel of someone controlling my every step. I was in a computer game. Funny as hell, it was the most horrible thing I could think of.
Yeah, baby.
Now, this can be regarded as possibly one of the most effective and insane fall breaks in history of gaming. A little after Doki Doki, of course, because what the fuck, man, and this is why this moment can be greatly appreciated, but I cannot feel like there's something more deeper to it. It adds more to the tragedy of the character. This guy Ever since we started the game, he has got his wife killed, is chasing the murderer relentlessly for 3 years with no leads while being undercover in Andrew Purchanero's crime organization. His partner Alex gets killed, for which he becomes blamed for and becomes a fugitive. He needs to fight through thugs, pimps, his crazy old Satanist son of bitch boss, until he finally gets drugged up with an audio Valkyrie. And meanwhile, this is happening during the worst winter storm in New York in the whole possible decade. The life of this guy is so fucked that he just shrugs off the idea of him being in a video game as funny as hell. There is simply no other way that this can get more fucked. Because imagine getting through all of this shit and then you are told that you're in a video game. I bet you would feel Max Payne. How many times have you heard the cliche or cliche phrases? Killing them will not bring them back, revenge is not the solution, and etc. When someone in a movie is out for vengeance. I bet my ass a lot of fucking times. But the thing about Max Payne is, it doesn't tell you, but it shows you. As I mentioned before, the second game in the franchise is all about Max moving on, trying to get back into the old job, the NYPD, while unfortunately he's being mixed up in some underworld conspiracies. But what might seem like yet another dark tale for our protagonist, this sequel hints toward a new hope for him, named Mona Sachs, who was a previous encounter in the first game who was presumed dead, but she managed to somehow survive and reintroduce herself in a kind of a mildly jarring way. But as the journey carries on, Max and Mona develop a beautiful relationship. She's an assassin and a fugitive chased by the NYPD, but despite that, Max cannot resist the femme fatale, and he gives in to achieve intimacy with her. And yeah, it may seem like that's about it, but this kinda shows how he's moving on from the death of his wife by having someone beside him while he's fighting evil yet again. They're one of the most iconic duos in gaming, at least for me, and they are here to drive a noir story that is presented with an amazing style and insane soundtrack. Better than the first game, because the first game, soundtrack good, you had the dun, 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 but that was probably every fucking time you enter a fucking game, it's good, but there's a couple tracks, 3, 4, playing around, nothing extraordinary. But and if we talk about the character chemistry, there is nothing better to describe it than the construction site, where you play as Mona trying to save Max from an explosion while she's fighting through waves of enemies, and you communicate on the radio, the clock is ticking while the track of Duty vs. Passion is played in the background. This shit gives me literal goosebumps. The passion, the duty, the love. But Mona eventually gets killed by Vladimir, a person that previously Max called a friend. Vlad was also the boyfriend of Winterson, the detective that Max killed because she attempted to shoot Mona. And why did he do it? Because of love. And why did Vlad commit this to Mona? Because of love. And also maybe because she was gonna assassinate him, because Walden ordered him he ordered a hit with him, so the same reason why Max killed so many people. This is why he finally killed Vlad. This obviously did not bring Mona back to life, but despite that, Max finally realized something in the most beautiful ending I have ever seen.
We are willing to suffer, to die for the things we care about, for love, for the right choices. Because of her, I had solved the case, my case, all of it, who I am. It's gonna be all right.
God, I turned out to be such a damsel in distress.
She was dead. The bullet in her head had come to the end of its slow-motion journey.
Stay sharp. We're going in. Go, go, go!
It is almost morning, waking up from the American dream.
Jesus! My God! What the hell went on in here?
They are all dead. Now, like all my loves, she is mine forever. She has brought me here to this moment of clarity, where time slows down and I choose to look back to see myself. And in that act of seeing, I am reborn.
Down here! This way! There! Easy! Oh my God! Got a live one here! Detective Payne? He's still alive! We need a medic in here now! He's still alive!
I had a dream of my wife. She was dead, but it was all right.
According to Aristotle, his definition of tragedy can include a change of fortune from bad to good, like we saw in Max Payne 2. Yes, another woman that he was in love with dies, and this is a misfortune, but from this, Max has indicated that he has finally moved on after his very last lines of monologue. So, what is the point of Max Payne 3 exactly? Well, this controversial sequel to the franchise is what Aristotle would deem as a preferable piece of tragic drama. It is a tale about how a person can only move on so much, and can only be true to themselves and not lie to their face to a very little extent. Hell, even in the opening, Max tries to pretend that he is excited to what awaits for him outside of what he would call noir York City. Meanwhile, the very first thing that he does when he enters his apartment in Sao Paulo for the first time is to pour a glass of whiskey and cry like a little bitch about his wife.
That one there was a violation. Personally, I wouldn't have it.
Max in this game is literally a waste. He is beyond broken, and this wasn't shown in the first game because he had Mona to calm down his grief, which is something that even he admits on the grave of his own wife and daughter. The events that are happening in the game are just things that put more salt into the character's wounds, and you as a player feel helpless in a way, just like Max. I have heard mentions that there is a stupid plot hole due to how Max is being hired as a bodyguard to the Brown family, and he doesn't even question the fact that out of all ex-cops from New York or anywhere else in the world, he is being approved to serve despite having one of the highest body counts as a rogue cop. But I don't think that this plot hole is a plot hole exactly, or an intentional slip-up of characterization, but rather something more justifiable. Since the beginning of the game, he has proven himself that he has become a tidbit incompetent by drinking at every opportunity, even if all hell starts to break loose around him. It's not to say that it is completely his fault, since there is a big dose of conspiracy from Victor Branco involved, but still it shows a justification for his careless and ignorant attitudes, and he has said multiple times that he was expecting a vacation and not a war between favela gangs, paramilitaries and the police involved in the middle. But yet again he is thrown into the gutter of the Big Shady, his boss along with his family being murdered, while the local police unit, the UFE, dealing with the shady Crusher Preto paramilitaries to capture people from the favelas, which leads to Max finding out that these people were being harvested for organs. It sounds fucked up, and it is even more fucked up when you see it. Max is just trying to move on, but he is either interrupted by him mowing down pills and washing them up with booze, or by the tragedy of the world he lives in, which ultimately you can argue that it is his duty to solve. I mean, he didn't even manage to protect his boss and his family, but at the end of the day you need to ask, was it actually his fault? And can he do enough to prevent corruption from happening? Victor Branco betraying his own brother, the poor people in the favelas being dealt for their organs by the exact people that were meant to protect them. Maybe he doesn't do enough, but at least he tries.
What the fuck is your problem, man?
My problem? My problem? Wanna know what my problem is? You're turning humans into glue! That's what my fucking problem is!
I don't know what you're talking about, American. All I know is what I hear about you. You bodyguard for the Brancos. They are all dead. You help the poor. Today, many of them dead. You are a proper American hero.
At least I fucking tried!
The point I'm trying to make is that Max Payne 3 is about many different things. Humanity, society, politics, self-discovery, self-loathing, and moving on from grief. But why does it exist? Aristotle saw the preferable version of tragedy is one that changes fortune from good to bad, and you could argue that this game is a great representation of that. The Fall of Max Payne showed us at the very end how our protagonist has reached the final stage of grief, acceptance. His wife was dead, but it was alright. But then Max Payne 3 represents us with ambiguity, lots of it. The protagonist hasn't moved on, but then he tries, presumably succeeds at some point, evidently when he shaves his head and quits drinking and channels his emotions to the problems that are present out of his metaphorical shell, and in a way he achieves something. Victor, the top guy responsible for the human traffic, is captured, sent to prison, and on top of that he hangs himself or something else. Justice served. But was it really? What was the point of it all? Well, maybe this narrative is nothing less than an exploration of existential crisis, about how Max was just swayed away from his crappy New York apartment to another less crappy apartment in Sao Paulo, only to be used as a puppet while he's drinking away his life while maintaining himself enough to just simply exist. Exist in a world full of corruption, betrayal and atrocities, to fill his emptiness with the energy to avenge something, because this is all he only knows after losing Michelle and his daughter. And after he got his dose of another random revenge, he seals it off with a celebratory beer despite committing to sobriety, so ultimately he has managed to reverse that fortune that Aristotle was talking about. Max wasn't fully a victim of circumstances, they were always in the background, and rather he embraced that background, but he was a victim of his hamartia, of him not moving on. And now I understand why I have shed tears every time I completed Max Payne 3. It is not because the ending is happy or sad, or simply because the game is bad. And also, it isn't about how Max has changed and will be able to walk into the sunset as a new man, but rather how he might be walking into it as the same man. The man with nothing to lose.